Hey, this is Rob from JTRpodcast.com, and this is Clans of Caledonia, a game I got from Kickstarter and was excited to play it, and I finally did. And in this game you play a clan and you're putting pieces out onto the board in order to gather wheat, milk and wool, and then you use that to turn it into whiskey, cheese and bread to fulfill contracts and make money, and ultimately to score points, and at the end of the game whoever's got the most points wins. Now let's see if I can get through this whole quick pseudo tutorial without mentioning the words Terra or Mystica. Let's see if I can do that and save that for the positives and negatives at the end. Okay, so let's go. So we've got the 4 pieces of board in the middle. You put those together. You have these little port tiles in the corners. There's one in each corner. And they give you ability. You can each use once per game. Every player can use them once per game each. And they give you various abilities. There's loads of them. You only use 4, so that's good. You put this market board out, and they've got those circled numbers right across the middle there. You can see 4, 5, 5, 10, 10, 11. And you put those little glass tokens on them there to show you that's the value of those 6 resources at the start of the game. You have this export board and you put those tiles in the middle. Those are your export contracts that you're going to be trying to fulfill to get other rarer resources and stuff. And on the left there, those little shields, they are end of round scoring, and there's loads of those, and you pick 5 and you have them all face up. That's just going to give you points at the end of the round. And that's pretty much all of setup. Player setup's a bit more complicated. Well, it's not more complicated, it's just more to do. You've got your player board and you put all your pieces on them in their various spaces. This is mine. I've got sheep, cows, cheese, bread, corn, whiskey, and then there are woodcutters and miners, the 2 rows of people on the right, and then bottom left are merchant cubes, and the bottom middle is like a shipping track thing, which this will all make sense in a bit. And you have a bunch of clan cards, and you lay out 1 plus the number of players. So in our 4-player game we laid out 5, and you would draft these in reverse turn order. So I took Clan Campbell. No idea what that ability means. I don't think I ever used it. It's something to do with you get a reduction in cost for building buildings of a certain type. I can't remember. Then on the left you also get paired up with one of these. Each clan's got one of these paired with it. So this is like your starting income. So I started off with 2 milk, 1 whiskey and 55 money. And then in turn order you'll place a worker from your board, and you start from the workers on the top of your board and pull them down. The worker itself has a cost, and also the space on the board has a cost depending how useful it is. So let's zoom in on some of those. You can see here the red meeples are both on a tile cost 1 each. So the red meeple on the left, that tile is a pure mountain, it's just a mountain. Only a miner can go there to be able to mine whatever it is they're mining from it. So it only costs 1 because it's not a very good area to be in. Same with the red meeple on the right. Now that's got a forest, so only a woodcutter can go there. So again, that's got not much value to it, so that's cost 1. Now the blue person is on a 6 tile, so that tile costs 6 to place there because it's got a forest which a woodcutter can go on. It's got a mountain which a miner can go on, and it's got a plains which everything else can go on. So that's a very flexible tile. That's why you're paying more for that piece of land. So you have to pay that cost as well as the cost of whatever you're placing on the tile, following the restrictions for the land. So once everybody's got 2 meeples out, the game will start, and it is played in 5 rounds of 4 phases. The preparation phase is the first phase, and that's just like your kind of refilling, your restocking, your upkeep round. So I'm not going to go into that here, but next up is the actions round, and players take turns taking 1 of 8 actions until they pass, and I'll go through those now. So the first one is to trade, and this uses this market board. You can see at the top there's a cube at the top left. That means I've been there, and those cubes are like your workers that you send to the market to buy and sell stuff. So I sent my worker there to obviously buy some wool, and what you do is you pay the cost that it's currently on. So in this case it's 6, so maybe I spend 12 and buy 2 wool, and then you'll move it that direction, that number of spaces. So in this case I'd move it up because I bought 2 spaces because I bought 2 pieces of wool. If you look at the bottom, the space at the bottom for you to sell stuff, so you can then sell them at the price they're at and move them down that many spaces. You can't buy and sell the same good in the same round. That makes sense, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense from a free trade perspective, but it makes sense from a gameplay perspective, obviously. The second action is to obtain one of the export contracts. So you look at that board, there are 8 available in a 4-player game, and you choose one and you pay the cost. Well, I say pay the cost, you don't always pay. So in round 1, you gain 5 money for taking one of these contracts. In round 2, you don't pay anything. Then in round 3, 4 and 5 you pay 5, 10 and 15 money. So the earlier you get them the better. But obviously it's going to be harder for you to fulfill them earlier on in the game. So that's how you get one of those. You've only got space for 1 on your player board, so you need to fulfill 1 before you can take another one. But for an action you can take one of those and then pay or gain money. The next action is to expand, and this is where you look at your player board again. And you see the costs of each unit along the top. So a sheep is 8, a cornfield is 18, etc, etc. And the same as placing the workers in the initial setup, you just pay the cost of the unit, pay the cost of the land you're putting it on. Look out for the restrictions in what land types you can place on, and then you just put it on there, and that's it. You just pay the cost, put it on, easy. There is a neighbour bonus. If you build in a space directly adjacent to an opponent, you can trade with the supply once each. So let's go back to the supply board. And what you can do here is use a merchant again, doing the same thing as you would using a merchant normally, except you can see at the top here they've got that little adjacency symbol there, so it means if you buy any of these basic goods, the wool, the corn or the milk, you'll get a -2 money discount, and on the other side if you buy any of the more advanced goods, you'll get 3 discount on each, so that's all good. There's also a building bonus as well if you build the 4th building of any type and your export tray is empty. Here's a picture of the export tray, what one looks like, that you'll have in your play area. You can then draw 3 exports from the top of the deck. There we've got our deck laid out in 4 different piles. You draw 3, choose 1 and discard the other 2 to the bottom of the deck, so that's another way you can get a free action. Back to your player board for the next action, which is upgrade your shipping. You can see at the bottom in the middle here it costs 4 to upgrade your shipping. It starts on the little wheel on the left and then you move it 1 space at a time. Now the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 is how many water spaces away you can build on. That's how many spaces you can skip over water, but the first one is to skip over stream. So if we go back to the board, you can see there in between the 2 red meeples there's a stream, so if they obviously had the shipping there that they could leap over that little gap. Next action is to upgrade a technology, and that's these tiles down here in the bottom right hand corner of your board where the workers are, and you can see they've got an arrow on one side. Both of my arrows are pointing to the left upwards. You can spend 10 money and you can flip them to the other side so they're pointing up the right hand side of that column. I'll explain why when we get to end of round scoring. While on this board, the second last action you could take is to pay 4 money to add another cube to your supply, so you've got another merchant you can send to trade goods at the market. So that's cool. The final thing you can do is you can fulfill an export contract. It's very simple. You can see the contracts are split in half. On the left is what you need to pay, on the right is what you're going to get, and those meat symbols means you basically need to sacrifice animals from the board and return them back to your supply. So in order to get the mutton and the beef, you need to be able to sacrifice sheep and cows to bring them back onto your board to get that meat. Now when you get the income, there's some different symbols on here that's not part of any of the resources you have. Normally we have 3 rare goods. There's one there, and one there. Now I can't remember what they are exactly, but they have their own tokens and they're here. And every time you claim one of these export tokens, every time you cash one in and you gain that many of that resource, you'll move that token along here, and all players are sharing these. So you're going to basically track how many of those each player's got between them for end game scoring. So I'll go through that at the end. And the final action is to pass, and when you pass you move your marker on this board. You always go to the highest space available and you take that much money. Then when everybody's passed, you go into production. You gain the income from units on your board, so let's go back to the player board for that. So you can see I've got 2 woodcutters out on the board, I've got 2 miners out on the board, and you gain the amount based on the lowest number you have revealed. So for the woodcutters there's an 8 there, so I'll get 8 money, and for the miners I'll get 12 money. So the reason it's one on the left, if I zoom back out, is it's down to that technology tile. So the technology tile's pointing to the left, so I'll score the left amount, so I'd get 20 income in total. If they were both upgraded and flipped to the other side, you'd look at the right hand column and I get a total of 28 income. That's why paying to upgrade the technologies is pretty good. Now unfortunately I didn't take a picture of anything underneath all my player board. My player board is full here, there's nothing out. But you'd get the income from things revealed on here. So if a sheep was on the board you get a wool, a cow would give you milk, and a cornfield gives you 2 grain. Then you gain your produced goods, so you can spend a milk for each dairy farm you have, each cheese dairy. You can spend a milk to gain a cheese. The same way with a bakery, you can spend a milk to gain a bread, and in the distillery you can spend a grain to get a whiskey. You don't have to, but you can do that for each of these factories you've got, each of these sort of production units you've got. You can trade them in to get these upgraded components, depending what you need for contracts and stuff. So you get that, you've played games before. Then you go to scoring, so you gain glory depending on your round scoring tile. So there's 2 here, so the top one, for every 2 units you've got on the edge of the board you get 3 points, and the bottom one is for each of those rare resources you're going to score a point for every that's in every fulfilled export contract that you've got stacked. away. So and then you flip the tile face down, as you see we've done in round 1 and 2. We flip the tile face down to show that that round's ended, and after 5 rounds the game will end. You do a bit of end game scoring. Around the outside of this board you can see these little tokens. You look at number 20 down here, the white token, that's mine. That means I've got 20 glory. You get 1 point for each glory you've got. This is all done on a scoring pad thing with a little pencil. You get 1 VP per glory you've got on that track. For each basic good you've got, which is your wool, your milk and your grain, you will score a point for each. For each processed good you've got, which is your cheese, your whiskey and your bread, you'll score 2 points for each. You convert 10 money into 1 victory point. For every 10 money you get a victory point. For every hops you've got, now hops is another rare resource you can get on an export tile. That's the symbol of it here, and you can see on the board here it tells you for each one of those you've got you're going to score 1 point. And just below that you'll see you score 5, 4 and 3 for each imported good you've got, depending on its rarity. So that depends where those 3 goods are on this track. The further back it is, the more points they're going to be worth, but obviously that means there's fewer of them between all the players. The player who's fulfilled the most export contracts will get 12 points, whoever's done the second most will get 6 points. And finally the player with the most settlements, which I'm assured is the largest contiguous group of connected units on the board, will score 18 points, second place 12 points, third place 6 points. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Let's go to the positives and the negatives. So the positives, obviously the production value, the artwork from Clemens Franz is all good. It looks really nice, the board looks nice, the art on the clans and all of the tiles and stuff looks great. The resources, you can see at the bottom, the wool, the bread, the cheese, the corn, the whiskey and the milk, they're all very nice. They could have easily been tokens, but they weren't. They used proper resources there. Market board looking like a chalkboard, it's quite good fun. I didn't shell out the extra for the metal money in the Kickstarter because I'm not really a massive fan of metal money, but even the cardboard money is quite nice as well. So the overall look of it is very good. The box is nice. I know that people say that it doesn't fit in the box. It does. I don't know what people are using to pack their games away, but I managed to get mine in. I thought I was going to have to struggle based on what people had said, but I didn't, so that's all good. So I did promise that I would go through the whole explanation of this game without referring to Terra Mystica, and I did. Obviously this game is very closely aligned to it, the way that you're moving things from your board onto the board in order to gain income that you use in the next round. The fact that if you build next to somebody else you get a bonus. You've got the end around scoring tiles, you've got the snake placement of starting units on the board. There's a lot very similar, and obviously Terra Mystica is the greatest game ever made, so that's good. That's why I backed this game on Kickstarter, because of that. I did that before Gaia Project was announced as well, so I thought this was good to be my Terra Mystica alternative. It turns out it's now just third choice for Terra Mystica games. But anyway, those similarities to it and the things that make it a bit different is good, but as I said, it's not Terra Mystica, it's also not Gaia Project, so it still beats Eclipse, because Eclipse is rubbish, but yeah, this is it's a really nice game. I really like the gameplay. You've got the variability with the end of round scoring, you've got the clans themselves that you use. The clans pairing up with the starting income is interesting as well, because it's 2 variables to your setup. You've got the different port tiles in the corner of the board that are different every game. I think you can change the board setup, I can't remember. But yeah, just overall, just a very enjoyable game. Now negatives, I mean the obvious negative is, as I'm already sort of hinted on, it's not Terra Mystica, it's not Gaia Project, it's not on that level. It's interesting because it's very loose. And what I mean by that is, in Terra Mystica, your resources are so tight every round, you've got to really eke out the most from every single coin you get, every single worker you get, every single QIC you get, every single Gaia Forma you get, depending on which game you're playing. They all seem so important. When you get that priest, it's like winning the lottery when you get a priest as income, because then you get to use it and there's different things you can do with it. It seems a waste, because sometimes you have to turn it into a coin, but that's the best thing to do, is just to waste this priest as a coin. But then you could put it on the priest track and move up and get some power and stuff like that. It's so tight and everything feels so valuable. But on this, it just felt so loose. I just seem to have so much money. I mean, one of the reasons for that is in the first round bonus scoring was you got 2 points per woodcutter and miner on the board. So in the first round, I put out all my miners and woodcutters, so that I got a ton of points, and then I got loads of money, which set me up for the second round. But it meant I was getting a ton of income every round, so I mean, could it be that? If that's not there next time, I'm going to struggle for money. I don't think anyone else struggled for money, so I'm not too sure about that. I mean, you get 16 money just for passing first, so I don't know. The other negative I had was I had people complaining about the game, saying it was counterintuitive, saying that iconography didn't make sense. It was only one person, but it was so grating on me the whole game that it was just annoying because, okay, check this out. At the top of your player board, you can see there's the icons above each row, and that tells you basically what it is. That's all it is really, except above the sheep and the cow, it means that you can sacrifice a sheep to get a mutton, and you can sacrifice a cow to get a beef. Now the reason those symbols are there above those rows is so that you know which is mutton and which is beef when you look at the export board and you know what you need. But we had a player complaining that you can't sacrifice a cheese factory to gain cheese. And they said the iconography was bad because of that. They said that the game is counterintuitive. On the reverse of these player boards is some scoring, tells you all about scoring, which is obviously bad because you can't look at it because you can't tip your board up. And they sort of focused on that as a flaw of the game, forgetting that all the scoring is on this board here. And on the back of the board, it shows you the scoring for 1, 2, and 3 players. So if you're playing with 1, 2, or 3 players, you have a player board spare, don't you? You can use that one. And it was just frustrating. I mentioned the same thing when I did my Pulsar 2849 video last time. They were just in a mood this week, and they were out to wind me up, forgetting that I've got no patience. So anyway, that was then. This is now. Overall, Clans of Caledonia, very good game. It's just, unfortunately, it's because it's sort of based on Terra Mystica, it's not at that same level. It kind of marks it down a bit for me. It's not going to get the 10 that are the only 2 games I've rated 10 are Terra Mystica and Gaia Project. So, yeah, it's not up there. It's maybe a 7. We'll see. I need to play it again, see what I think. Play with different clans, play with different end around scoring, see if the game tightens up with less income in the first round. But yeah, overall, very nice game. Glad I've got it. Clans of Caledonia. Remember to like and share this video if you found it useful. Subscribe to the channel for more game day first play videos as well as other board game related content. You can find me on Twitter at JTR Podcast, or find the blog and podcast at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka Jesta ThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.